10.52 miles, 8 minutes, 54 seconds per mile, 141 beats per minute today. Going for a run in some new spaces for me, at least running wise, exploring some new areas, not that far off some of my regular routes in the Brooks Catamount. That new route gave me some ability to test this shoe a little bit further, experience it at some different surfaces and textures and kind of elevation grades, which was a lot of fun. And I went for a very similar run the day prior in the Ultra Superior 4.5, so I can compare these shoes head to head. But before I get into my thoughts on these two shoes and how they performed, I do want to go over some disclosures. The Brooks Catamount is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review by Running Warehouse, and the Ultra Superior is a pair of shoes that I purchased with my own money. However, in either event, no one's reimbursing me for the cost of any shoes or paying me to make this video. No one's going to get a chance to preview any of this footage or my thoughts before this video goes live on YouTube. Now, the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Brooks Catamount and the Ultra Superior 4.5. Now, my perspective on these two shoes is I'm normally a road runner that has been spending a lot of time this summer on dirt roads and, when I can, on some lighter trails. The terrain is not the easiest terrain, but the trails are relatively well manicured and taken care of. So that's kind of like my perspective on it, and that's the kind of trail shoes that I'm looking for. I don't think either of these two shoes is the most technical of trail shoes, not the most hardcore of shoes to be running in, but they work really well for me for both the trails that I run on and some of the pavement that I have to run on to get to some of these trails and dirt roads. Now with the Brooks Catamount, what we've got is a 26 millimeter stack height in the forefoot with a 6 millimeter drop, coming in at 9.5 ounces. That sounds pretty heavy, but is a lot lighter than it sounds. In this Brooks Catamount shoe, you got that beautifully blue DNA Flash midsole foam that is new from Brooks for this year, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I love this material, and I hope to see a lot more of it in more Brooks shoes in the future, and I'm loving the fact that they decided to put it into a trail shoe. On the outsole for this shoe, we've got the sticky tack rubber that Brooks calls its trail tack, and protecting you from the rocks and roots is Brooks Ballistic Rock Shield. I've been calling it a rock plate, but they call it a Ballistic Rock Shield. Now, from the Ultra Superior, what we have is Brooks Quantic midsole foam, which is super soft and cushioned. It kind of just feels like you're running on all ortholite. It's just fantastic to run on, but it's not super mushy either. I definitely still feel fast and springy in this shoe. On the outsole, they got its Max Trax. I think it's 2 X's in there, Max and Trax. Outsole to give you a nice grip on some of those uneven and loose surfaces. And it has not a rock plate or a rock shield, but it has a removable rock guard is what they call it. It's kind of flexible. It's very loose. I would say that maybe it's like a very thin TPU like phone case cover, but I actually think the material that it reminds me most of is bath mat. So that's kind of what it is. I actually was able to test it out for the run for this video for today. And I'll say that it protects you from rocks, but you're definitely still feeling it. If you're gonna be on rocky surfaces, like when I'm on dirt roads here, a lot of those rocks aren't exactly like gravel. They're a little bit bigger. Some of them are very, very jagged. And they'll poke through the Max Track because it's not like full coverage of the Max Track. There's some exposed foam here. And sometimes I'll feel those rocks and it can be uncomfortable because that Quantic midsole foam is pretty soft. With the rock guard, I still felt them, but they didn't hurt. So I kind of like that. You're getting a lot of road feel without any road pain from it. So I think it really works. Whoa, that was a loud burst of lightning. Well, that was loud thunder. That was loud. Now, overall, in terms of running in both of these shoes, they both have great fit. They both have gaiter attachments. They both have drainage options. So neither of these are waterproof, but they're both designed so that when they do get wet, any water that gets in the shoe is going to come out quickly, which I definitely appreciate. And they're really great hybrid shoes. Both of these, I wasn't expecting this. Both of these shoes are really great for if you're running a little bit on pavement and a little bit on dirt roads and trails. They handle both of those surfaces really well. So for the kind of trail shoe that I'm looking for, both of these shoes are really great options. And I would say we already started talking about the Ultra Superior 4.5, and I talked about how cushioned it is in that midsole foam and how soft it is. It's like walking and running on ortholite. It's really great, comfortable material to run in. I just feel really great putting my feet into them. There's a very like relieving sensation whenever I put the shoe on, and then running in them just feels really smooth, even though it's a 21mm stack height shoe with 0 drop. It doesn't feel like a 0 drop shoe to me. It feels very comfortable, and the more I've been wearing it, the more my foot seems to be molding into that Quantic midsole foam. All this is very good for me, though. I really enjoy it, and I've been really enjoying running in this shoe. It feels like a very comfortable extension of my foot. It just feels great. Feels really great. I enjoy it. There's also a very substantial toe cap on here, so if you're like me and have kind of lazy feet on the trail and tend to kick things a lot, you're really going to appreciate the very stiff toe cap that the Ultra Superior has. The last thing I would say is a very agile shoe, because it feels like you're just running with almost nothing underfoot. Just feels like it's supporting you in a very soft but like out of your way kind of way. I do feel like it's a very agile shoe. So if there's a lot of hopping around that you're going to be doing, I think that I would really like running in the Ultra Superior 4.5. Now to contrast it, I think that where the Ultra Superior 4.5 is very like soft and trying to like blends into your foot, the Brooks Catamount is very much the opposite. It is a very firm shoe, and you definitely know that you're wearing it. I think that with the rock plate that it has here, it's much stronger. It protects you much more from the rocks and surfaces that you're on. So if you're hopping around on trails, and the things that you're hopping around are going from rock to rock, and sometimes there's very like craggy, sharp edges and surfaces, you're going to definitely appreciate the much thicker ballistic rock shield that's in the Brooks Catamount. Or even if you're just running on dirt roads like mine, where there's lots of rocks and some of them can get very pointy and might jab up into your foot, this is going to do a great job protecting you and insulating you from a lot of that feel. It also has a really aggressive lug pattern, and I feel like the rubber that they're using on the outsole in the trail tack in the Brooks Catamount is a lot more rigid than the Max Track rubber that's in the Ultra Superior. So I feel like when you do have a loose surface, I feel like that those lugs are really digging in and taking hold, almost kind of like a cleat or even like a spike that's really getting in there, and I feel like it's doing a great job with traction. The other thing about this shoe is I feel like whereas the Ultra Superior is very agile, I feel like the Brooks Catamount is very fast. And that's all coming, I think, because of this DNA Flash midsole that's in here. I mentioned that it's a very firm material, and I say that a lot of times as a negative, because at like regular paces, I feel like when you're running like kind of just easy pace, your default speed, I feel like this shoe is a little bit on the firm side in an uncomfortable way. But once you start picking up the pace a little bit, putting in a little bit more effort into it, loading the foam a little bit more, that's when that DNA Flash midsole really comes alive, and that's when it becomes exciting and a lot of fun to run in. So if you're going to be running on terrain where you're going to be able to move a lot quicker, then I really feel like the DNA Flash sole is the superior material that you want to be running on. I think the best way for me to kind of like explain these two shoes is like the Ultra Superior 4.5 is like a rally car racing through the forest, doing it with a smaller engine lower to the ground and being very agile and quick. And the Brooks Catamount is like that 4x4 with like the ultra high like air suspension that is just using brute force to get through everything with its super grippy lugs, super rigid midsole, super rigid outsole. Like it's just getting through there really fast, and like obstacles be damned. And I think that the Ultra Superior has a little bit more finesse to it. That's kind of the way that I'm looking at these two very different trail running shoes. I've been really enjoying both of them so much. So which one do I like better? It's a really close one for this one, and it's hard to kind of pick because they're both very different shoes. I think if I were in a race, I would pick the Brooks Catamount. But in terms of which one do I think is the shoe that I'm going to enjoy more, I think I'm enjoying the Ultra Superior a little bit more, just because of the way that I run through trails. I'm not typically looking to get a workout when I'm running on trails, so I'm not as concerned about the pace. I'm more concerned about having fun and just feeling more connected to the trail and the materials and the surfaces that I'm running on and the areas I'm running in. And I feel like the Ultra Superior lets me do that just a little bit better. So a very subjective decision on which one is the better shoe, but pretty much all of these versus videos are very subjective, and I know that you guys are going to disagree quite a bit. So I'd love to hear about that and why you're disagreeing in the comments down below. Let's keep the conversation going down there. That's all I have for today's video, everybody. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?